Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Apple Box Chronicles. My name is Peyton Buteau.
And I'm Adrian Thomas.
And today on the ABCs, we are taking you from A to Z on the films of Ari Aster, specifically Eddington, which just released this past week.
Yeah.
A very normal movie that everyone's reacting to very normally. There's absolutely no debate. Everybody likes it. So we thought that's a movie we really want to talk about because everyone's going to agree with everything we say.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
That's why we're talking about it? Okay. So this is a return to a segment called View Findings, which we did for our very first episode on Christopher Landon when Drop came out. We're going to give you our spoiler-free thoughts on the film Eddington, and then we're kind of going to give you our idea of what we think Ari Aster is going for with all of his films and try and give a through line and going through each and every one of them. These are movies that we like a lot.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to go through each and every one of them, and we're going to take you along this journey of what we think he's saying, how he's developed as a filmmaker, and what have you. So, what is our thesis today on Ari Aster?
Well, when I first thought of this, I was like, I think Ari Aster is just playing God with a funny sense of humor. But I think our real thesis is basically how Ari Aster is, as a director, he kind of plays with his characters like dolls in a dollhouse, and he kind of has complete control over them and uses manipulation, even within the characters of his films as a way to kind of tell his story. And manipulation is basically the through line with all of his films. Someone or something is always being manipulated by something else.
Yeah, absolutely. So his movies are a bit like tragedies in some sense.
Yeah.
All of them. They're a bit like pawns, these characters just being moved towards this manipulated outcome. And usually he's not even that subtle about it in terms of like how it begins. And all of the confusion that comes from his films and all the reason that there's so many ending explain videos on all of his movies is, I think, just because of the way he plays with the tone and the way that he kind of throws a lot of randomness in there that maybe sometimes isn't as random as you might think. And also just how densely packed they are with detail. Like,
yeah.
He's so detail-oriented, and everything in his movies has a purpose, and all the stuff in the background, like, there's so many funny little things you can get out of his movies. There's so much, like, Where's Waldo kind of stuff where you can point out things in the background. And he doesn't really show you them for that long. You kind of have to, like, pause the movie sometimes to take it all in. Yeah, but what is your history with Ari Aster, and how did you get into him? Why do you like him?
Well, I mean, like most people, you saw Hereditary, his first feature-length film, and it just blows you away. You're like, I didn't know horror movies could be this good again. Like, I think at the time, horror movies were kind of in this little slump where they were coming out really fast, very cheap, but there was no substance to them. They were very throwaway kind of horror movies. But when Hereditary came out, it was so good, so different, and yet also kind of utilizing the similar like cliches in some horror movies. But the movies are just so much deeper and, like you said, more detailed, and he has so much control over these movies, especially with Hereditary, that when Hereditary came out and I saw it, I instantly knew I saw a filmmaker who was gonna just take over and do amazing things. And I've been a fan of Ari Aster ever since. He to this day, he's, for his in terms of contemporary filmmakers today, he's one of my favorite, if not maybe my favorite contemporary filmmaker of today, because he does not conform to the usual film. He changes it up. He always does something so unique, something so different, very stylish in his own sense, and we just don't see films like this today that are so risky and different and weird and funny and scary all at the same time. And I just saw all of that with Hereditary, and it just, with each next movie that he would make, it just confirms that he's one of the bravest filmmakers today that's doing different stuff. And I don't think he really cares about what other people are really saying or how they feel about his films, because they are so unique, and any opinion on any of these films doesn't really matter, because I think they will all like go down through history as some of the wildest, most unique movies to come out during this time that people really latch on. Like, people love Hereditary, people love Midsommar, and I think throughout the years there'll be way more appreciation for movies like Beau's Afraid and Eddington, especially with when retrospectives comes and they kind of look back at the time and see what he was trying to do with those movies.
Absolutely. I think the same, but for me, I wasn't as deeply invested in cinema as a whole when Hereditary came out. I was like 16. I was 15 because it was almost 16. And that was kind of a formative horror film as well for me. Like, it wasn't me being like, oh, I didn't know horror movies could be this good again. I was kind of like, I didn't know horror movies could be this good, period. You know? It really kind of broadened my horizons a bit in terms of, like, it's, you know, that I think is true for a lot of people my age. Like, Hereditary being like, oh, whoa, this A24 guy knows what he's doing. Like, you know, people treat, like, A24 like they're a person making movies, and Ari Aster is one of those A24 filmmakers that made that happen, you know, that made that a thing, for better or worse. But yeah, in terms of his movies, I mean, I'm just so excited for every single one. I never actually saw Midsommar in theaters. I had to wait until I saw that at home because I wasn't quite old enough to see it by myself in theaters, and no one would go with me. so that was frustrating. But when I did see it, I actually didn't like it very much, but that was because I had good friends who didn't really like it, and then I think I was just kind of like, oh, I kind of see what you're saying, but I wasn't really thinking, I wasn't challenging that enough, I think, and I'm not blaming my friends, of course. I think that I was a little too impressionable at that time.
Well, I think that's kind of a bit of a problem with the modern day audiences, is that they don't challenge or they don't respect the challenge of films being different and doing different things and kind of taking you in places that you're not fully aware that you're going to be taken, and they think it's, you know, oh, this is too weird, too stupid, or what. They kind of put it on the back end of what they really should be thinking about. They go over the big picture. They just kind of see it as a horror movie, and that's it. But it's not just a horror movie. He's doing much more than just making a horror movie or a comedy or a political satire.
Right. Well, now, I mean, with Beau is Afraid, I think with every passing film he makes, I have to become a little more like Ari Aster and not care what people think and be like, no, this movie's awesome, guys. Because he is actually, I think, fallen down in his last two films in terms of, like, the overall popular opinion has been a little more divisive, whereas his first two movies were pretty beloved overall, like, universally.
Yeah.
I've grown to like Midsommar over several watches and kind of just tuning into my own tastes and what I like to see in films. Beau is Afraid is literally my favorite movie.
Yeah.
I think. At this moment, I think that is true. I told Ari Aster that, so I kind of have to, like, I have to stick to my guns. I got to meet Ari Aster the other week. He's really nice. But, I love the man. He is on, because of how formative Hereditary was for me, because of how much Beau is Afraid means to me as personally, and because I really like his other two films as well, and just like he's, like you said, one of the most brave, bold, kind of unique voices out there right now. He is, I think, currently on my Mount Rushmore, I guess, of directors. He's like my third favorite director. Period.
Of like all time.
Period. Yeah. And it's only 4 films, but it's like, well, when he's directed your favorite movie and one of your favorite horror movies, and then his 2 other movies are, like, I think, like, near perfect as well. it's kind of hard to really count the man out. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I can bet on him every time, I feel like.
Yeah, at this point, I think I haven't really rated Eddington, but I mean, the 3 other films for me are 5-star movies. Like like he's made basically perfect movies for his entire career, for me at least, because he really he's like a director's director, and as a person who's like really into directors, like he knows what he's doing. Like he's like Martin Scorsese in that way, or even Spielberg in that way. It's like they just know what they're doing. They don't need the I don't know really how to explain it. It's
they
like,
have it all
it's like they were
out.
born to make movies.
Yeah.
Like they really put themselves into filmmaking as a way of living rather than just, this is my job. This is like, they were made to make movies, and I think Ari Aster is one of those people.
Yeah,
because if you see his movies can be very personal and very personal for him, and like every movie that he touches on has some kind of correlation to like his past or certain traumas he's gone through, and so it's like these movies had to be made for him, by him, because he had to make those movies. And that's the best kind of filmmaker, is a filmmaker who needs to make films,
right?
Not because they're bought out by a studio, or they want to make money, or they want to become famous, or they want to just make some kind of schlocky blockbuster. He makes these movies because he loves movies, and like this is the only way he could like go about his life, is to make movies. And I feel like those are always going to be the best filmmakers, and the most progressive filmmakers in terms of the medium and what they're trying to push for the medium of film, because he's really pushing boundaries with each and every one of his films, and that's why they're so polarizing, because people don't see these types of films all the time, and because he was raised to such acclaim with Hereditary and Midsommar, people are now starting to like focus in on him. And because his films are so bold and risky and brave, people don't know how to make them out. It's very polarizing for some people, because they're not used to filmmakers being so risky and so different with what they're doing.
Well, great. Yeah, I mean, great filmmakers like have to make films. It's not a want, it's like a have to make films. I find that to be true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're clearly big fans of Ari Aster.
He's one of the great filmmakers of today, and I think he'll go down in history as one of the great filmmakers of his time.
I'm just pulling up the Hereditary thing because we didn't have it.
But yeah, we're gonna go through each and every film. I kind of went over this, kind of skipped over this, but when I first saw Hereditary, I remember seeing it, being so blown away. I watched it immediately again with more friends, and then just kind of seeing their reactions to it, because it's a very there's a lot of things that happen in that movie that really gets a reaction out of folks. And then I saw it a third time that night,
like in the same day
with because there was an employee screening happening when I was working at that movie theater, and I wanted to see what all my coworkers were thinking of it. Literally, like three dudes left halfway through the screening because they were so scared, literally so scared. They were like, I gotta leave. I can't.
It is the most I've ever remembered myself being genuinely scared in a theater at a horror movie ever, period, in my life. And my uncle, who never physically reacts to movies very much. Like, I'll watch a lot of movies with him and he'll just be like, that was good. But like, I can't tell until after the movie. Hereditary is one of his favorite films of all time. I think he says it is his favorite film of all time, like a lot.
Yeah.
And we saw it together, both of our first time. And he, during the scene that everyone knows about, he literally had his hands over his mouth for 5 fucking minutes after that happened. I have never, ever seen that man physically react to a movie like that.
Yeah.
But it blew my fucking mind. Like,
well, what I love about his films is that they are so subversive. They don't you don't see where the movie's gonna go. Well, especially when you watch it for the first time, you have no idea what's gonna happen in the next scene or the scene after that, because even though they kind of follow this, we were talking about this before the episode. He kind of structures his films via genre, but he doesn't. That's the only structure he has in terms of his films. Everything else is up to him and what he can do, and how he could change up the story or the narrative. And because he's so subversive with what he's showing and like what he's presenting to us, it's always quite the ride. It's like, what is happening right now? What is going on? Like, there are moments in Beau is Afraid where it's like, I didn't know this was happening. I didn't know this was allowed in movies, but it's happening right now, and it's crazy, and it's awful, but also wonderful, but also great. And that's the reaction you're supposed to get with movies. You're supposed to feel all these emotions, and as well as being entertained, being challenged, and getting taken out of your comfort zone every once in a while, because that's what art is about. And Ari Aster is an artist. Like, he truly is, like...
Pretty sure you can... Ari Aster, you can spell artist out of those letters.
Yeah, he's an artist. Like, he's making stuff that's supposed to make you feel different things about a bunch of different subjects.
Yeah. He also just has that's a great filmmaker name, Ari Aster.
Ari, yeah, you don't really hear a lot of people named Ari.
What's it called? The alliteration of that is really fantastic. So let's get into Hereditary, the first of these films. So we're gonna. Well, actually, we kind of talked about this a little bit. We should probably just give a little bit of thoughts on Eddington first, spoiler free. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about Eddington spoiler free. And then we're going to go through his other three films, full spoilers, and then go back to Eddington, full spoilers.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our spoiler-free review of Eddington right now. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, I know. Same.
It's very much his most literal movie in terms of the politics and like everything he's going for, but it also feels very much Ari Aster in... I think tonally it's the most similar to Beau is Afraid, which I think is why people don't like it very much, because it's very...
it's like nightmare comedy.
It's a nightmare comedy, but it's like a waking nightmare. That's what I said. I was like, it's a nightmare comedy still, but you're like awake now because it's reality. It's not. It doesn't feel like otherworldly. It feels like, oh, this actually is happening. We are kind of living in Beau is Afraid, like the first half, at least, the first bit.
Yeah.
But it is also a Western. And this is something we also want to touch on with each of these movies, is the fact that he's using genre in this sort of as the defining structure of the movie, and the pacing of the movie is dictated by genre, but then the story itself is a kind of always following his style, and in the tone itself it's not really concerned with matching the tone of other genre films. It's the genre is more about structure. But in Eddington, there's a lot of fun like Western tropes in it that are subverted.
Yeah,
like the stranger comes to town, or the lone gunman, or like that saves everybody, or the Western standoff right in the middle of the street. You know, instead of a tumbleweed blowing by, there's like a receipt that just blows by the street, and instead of a gun, it's a phone. A lot of it is about phones and social media and all that kind of stuff, where we're kind of putting on performances and stuff. It's a political movie, but it shows how everyone's politics in the movie is very personally driven and kind of self-fulfilling in a way. It's not really about the things that they're saying it's about.
Yeah, I think the movie is pretty much how politics have become very performative rather than, I don't know, genuine, like a concern about certain subjects.
Yeah, and there are certain things in the movie that are not omitted. They're in the movie, but they're not touched on enough for certain people. I know that there's been criticism about that, but I actually think we talked about this before we were recording. Like, it is somewhat intentional, and we're going to get into it. But yeah, Eddington, fantastic, so funny, like incredibly funny, kind of sad in the same breath, right?
Yeah.
But God, just what a ride.
Yeah, no.
I've seen it 3 times. I know you've only seen it once.
I've only seen it once, but immediately after that, I was like, I need to watch it again. Like, I wanted to watch it again immediately after that. Like, there's so much in it. It's a very meaty movie. There's a lot of details and a lot of characters and a lot of things going on, and a lot of just details that you really have to look into and kind of really receive all the information. But it's so good. Like, it's so different. So, like, there's the whole Bill Hader, Ari Aster podcast conversation
the
that they have,
podcast.
and there's some that Bill Hader says where he says like a friend said that it was very refreshing, and it really is very, like, it's a refreshing movie because it's just so different from anything else coming out today, in terms of what it's doing and how it's trying to say what it's trying to say.
And it's also not oh man, what was I going to say? Yeah, it's very different. And I think a lot of people are probably going to see the cast, and they're going to go into it not knowing who directed it, and might be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, people will probably just see, oh, Emma Stone's in it. Oh, look at that, Pedro Pascal's in it. Let's see what this movie's about. And it's like, oh no. Oh no.
Yeah, and it's such an anxious movie. That's another thing that Ari Aster just does a lot. It's the anxiety of feeling like you're failing at navigating something and feeling like something, you're just making it worse, but really you're kind of under this huge manipulated like umbrella, and it's like all that anxiety actually is coming from that.
Yeah, I also think that there's this thing where most people, when it comes to COVID 2020, people want to get away from that. They want to be like, I don't want to go back to that time. That was a bad time. We had to close up everything. It was, the people had to lose their jobs. It was something we don't want to be reminded of.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this movie is right in the middle of it. And a lot of people might be like, I don't want to be reminded of 2020. That was such a. I think it needs to be reminded. People need to remember that time, because we need to see, like, that's where all this is, like, kind of stems from. All this radical extremist ideas from both sides, more on one side than the other, kind of stemmed from that time. And I think the problem is people want to look past it, but what we need to do is look at it directly and focus on what the problems were and how it kind of branched out and made way for everybody else to kind of feed off of. And that's why we're in such a radically different political state that we are today than we were 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's true. And like, also, it's not a movie that really is like, I think, trying to say that, oh, like, you know, what am I trying to say here? It's not really a movie that's trying to say that one person is the problem.
Yeah,
it's really just trying to say, like, hey, we all went through this thing, and it really made us, like, feel isolated and so, like, unable to reach each other and communicate to one another. And it's like, because of that, we were looking for community in these very different ways, these very almost desperate but very dangerous ways.
Yes.
And yet all these things are very dangerous. However, the movie is also very funny because all these things, as dangerous as they are fucking crazy. They're like ridiculous and absurd looking. And so they're kind of hard to take seriously, but that actually makes them more dangerous, you know? Because it's like, you can look at it and you can laugh at it, but it's like, damn, no, that's really harmful.
Yeah, that really happened. People really thought like that. People still really think in that way, and that's what's harming society, is like how how media, how politics have just shifted in such a big way, and people are not the same because of it. And
Yeah.
again, you have to understand history. You gotta look at all of it, like flaws and all.
Yeah, what happened, what shifted,
and we have to look at the problems to find the solution. And what Ari Aster is giving us is like, this is what you guys were doing.
Yeah, and Joe Cross, played by Joaquin Phoenix, who is not a good person in this film.
Yeah,
but very few people are in this film.
Well, Joe Cross really is the protagonist, but he's
not a redeemable protagonist.
Yeah, but no, he's a bad guy.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, he's the protagonist because he's the most interesting to kind of look at, like, how his failures and his morals being warped over the course of the movie. But what he says towards the beginning is he says something along the lines of, how do we get here? And even worse, like, is it worth it? You know? And I feel like that's a line that kind of encapsulates, like, a lot of the movie. It's like, it just wants to look at, like, what actually happened. Like, look at how we got here. Like, look at what we did. Yeah. And it's one of those things when you watch the movie, and this is universal because we all went through the pandemic, it's like realizing that you went through a trauma. You know what I mean? Collectively. It's like we're all kind of like, oh no, like we didn't notice it at the time, but we went through something incredibly traumatic, and it changed us forever. Yeah. You know? But anyway.
That's our, I guess, mostly spoiler-free movie.
We didn't spoil
nothing. We just kind of talked about some of the themes.
Yeah. But that's that. We'll get into the nitty-gritty later down the line. So, Hereditary is what we're going to talk about next.
Which was his first film.
Yes. So, this film, like we said, we both love it a lot. This is the plot synopsis for Hereditary off Letterboxd. Following the death of the Lee family matriarch, Annie and her children uncover disturbing secrets about their heritage. Their daily lives are not only impacted, but they also become entangled in a chilling fate from which they cannot escape, driving them to the brink of madness. So in the synopsis, you're already seeing how it's inescapable. Yeah. So we've kind of formatted this in a certain way. We're going to talk about the first shot of each of these films because that's very important in Ari Aster's movies to show what the manipulating factors are, how the story is going to move, and all that. And then we're going to talk about each of the characters and their relationships to one another. And then we're just kind of go through like how the greater manipulation is happening in the movie and for what purpose. And then we're going to talk about the destination.
Yeah. And when it comes to Hereditary, I was talking to my other roommates about this. The very first shot of the movie is kind of like a foreshadow of how Ari Aster will create all of his movies, and that's the dollhouse. And you kind of see these characters inside a little dollhouse come to life, and like our like little thesis about Ari Aster is that he's playing God. And he's just playing with these little dolls in the dollhouse and creating these situations for them to just kind of go through. And he's just giving them the worst situations and making them kind of go through the motions of that. And that's with every film that he does. I guess any director is playing God in that sense, where you get to use and control your characters to do and tell a story that you want to tell. But with Ari Aster's movies, it's almost like a literal interpretation of how he's directing these.
Yeah, I think he's
films.
Just acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. He kind of sets a precedent for his entire career in that one opening shot of the movie. Yeah. And then
it was actually that from the very beginning, from that very first shot, I knew I was in for a formative, like a really good, like a guy that really knows how to make a film. Like from that very first shot, I was like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. Yeah. And with Hereditary, there's kind of this whole thing about, seeing the world from a distance, kind of seeing it from above and from afar. Everything's smaller, and it's like you get to create the the scenes, scene by scene, with these little figures, and it's kind of like this layered theme about how people are getting like placed and manipulated again from kind of a higher power, and with Hereditary, that higher power is I guess the grandma.
It's just the familial ties.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hereditary, right? So it's in this movie, I think it's the horror of like the things you can't change, which are your family, you know, what you're born into, and it's like this blueprint that you kind of have to discover over the course of your life, when it comes to family and like what they expect of you, who you are, and who your relatives are, as you kind of come to learn more about that stuff. There's a scene early on in the film with a high school class where they're talking about some kind of book or play or something. I forget what it is, but the teacher asked them, is it more tragic or less tragic that they couldn't control their fate? Is it more tragic because they were hopeless the whole time, or is it less tragic because there was no other way anyway, right? Yeah. And so that's a really interesting thing to think about.
Like the whole free will,
yeah,
like kind of theory. It's like, do you have free will or don't you? Is there something that's controlling your every move and every situation, or do you actually have control over that?
Yeah, whether it be your government, your parents, your family, everything. Yeah. Like, it's like we don't really know a lot about our higher purpose or whatever, and I think Ari Aster just kind of makes these things funny in a very dark way.
Yeah.
It's just like, we're all kind of living through the same sort of tragedy in that sense. So it mainly follows the family, after the grandmother passes away, which is Annie, played by Toni Collette, who is amazing in this movie.
It's probably her best role.
Yeah, everybody wanted her to get an Oscar, but of course they're not going to.
Honestly,
do that.
She should have at least been nominated.
Yeah, no, she's exceptional in this movie. One of my favorite performances. Period.
I am your
film.
mother.
Oh my god, that shit is traumatizing to me. What you're gonna discover over the course of this is like I also just connect to Ari Aster. I think me and him, for some reason, I feel like he understands me. Like, I feel like he understands my childhood. Yeah. If I was able to talk to him more, he probably would have recommended I go to therapy or like wanted to get away from me. But
then there's Beau's Afraid and his therapist, and you're just like,
I don't know if I should.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then there's her husband, Steve, who is kind of a minor character in the movie, but he's the most... because he's not biologically tied to the grandmother.
Yeah.
He is, like, the most awake throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Played by Gabriel Byrne. Still a great performance. Peter, played by Alex Wolff, is very important. And then Charlie, played by... Oh, man, I forget her name. I feel so bad, because she's so good in this movie.
Yeah.
But I actually have it right here.
But another thing about Alex...
Millie Shapiro. She's really good.
Yeah. Another thing about Alex Wolff in this movie is that I always knew him from being a part of the Naked Brothers band.
Me too.
As a kid, and I always hated those guys. I was like, I hate their music. I hate how popular they are. They're like, I guess I was just kind of jealous of like who they were, like really talented musicians at such a young age, and they were kind of put in the spotlight. But I always like just thought that he was like a bad actor, and he could. But no, Alex Wolff is great. He's great in this movie. He's great in pretty much everything he's been in since this movie. And
I mean, he was in Patriots Day before this as well.
That's true. He was he was kind of minor in that role, but this movie just really was like, oh man, he really is as good as he's always been.
Yeah, and then Charlie, played by Millie Shapiro, great in the film, very important character, and then Joan, played by Ann Dowd, who's just perfect as this like very nice like I don't know what the word is, but like you don't think anything of her, and she's super nice, but she's clearly very manipulative as well, and because this film is essentially about the family being manipulated by the cult that the grandmother was a part of before she died, and they are trying to summon a demon to put inside of Peter's body.
Yes.
But it's this very interesting. You kind of pick up on like how she's been trying to do this for so long,
Yeah.
and it's like even in death, it still lingers. It's like even after someone dies, they're because they're your family. It's like you still kind of realize it feels like they're there.
Yeah, the
It's
trauma
like,
continues.
yeah, the trauma continues, but also you are still kind of like them in a way, and in certain ways, in some cases. So, basically, she tried to put this demon into her son, Annie's brother, who killed himself, and wrote in the suicide note like, my mom was trying to put people into me, and then.
And they passed it off as like he was schizophrenic. And
yeah, well, because she probably tormented him a lot.
And the Annie character, she thought Hereditary, it was like a mental illness in the family. It wasn't.
Yeah.
But you could see how that could like scare someone, like when you have someone close to you who's going through some kind of health crisis, and you're like, oh, is that going to happen to me too?
Right.
And there's the scene where she's in the therapy session, or like,
it's like a
group therapy session, where she talks about like her fears of her mental state from all of the factors of her family. But it was really just the manipulation of her grandmother doing everything she can to summon the devil demon Payman.
Yeah. Who I think she believes she's married to, is I think the thing. They're like anti-nuns.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then, so she couldn't do that, and then they had a falling out because of what happened with the brother, so she didn't let her near Charlie, her first kid, who was a girl, and the Payman needs a male host, right? So it's this very sick thing that they allude to, where the grandmother was trying to like feed the demon into the baby, even though it was technically a girl, and she always said like she wanted me to be a boy, and like the grandma was apparently like breastfeeding Charlie. It was super weird.
Well, the thing is, Charlie is Payman,
because she did it.
Yeah, she did it, but it was in a girl's body, but they need Payman to be in a boy's body, so they basically were trying to figure out a way to put Charlie into Peter. And there's a whole manual on how to do that, because they did it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty
and
crazy.
And it has to do with beheading, and there's all this stuff. There's so many details in this movie.
It's chock full of details.
Like
every single scene and every single frame, there's something going on.
Let's talk about some of the manipulation and the details of this movie. There's this cult symbol that's everywhere. It's on the pole.
Yeah.
In the famous scene where Charlie is beheaded. That's a huge thing in the movie. Like they have to be beheaded.
Yeah.
Ari Aster does have a thing with like people getting their heads chopped off or getting injured in some their head just getting destroyed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in this movie, the demon passes around and through the whole family before it gets to Peter, and you have to chop off someone's head to, I guess, release it.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's also like several other moments. Joan plays one of the cult members who's trying to get closer to the family through Annie, and through playing towards her grief over not only her mother dying but Charlie dying as well. And there is a moment where Annie is painting, because she does the dollhouse stuff.
Yeah.
And she knocks over a bottle of paint onto the card that Joan gave her that has Joan's number on it. And that like reminds her of Joan, and is like, I should call her. If you watch that scene slowly, she does not knock over the paint. The paint falls over by itself. Her hand is just very close to it. So the demon or whatever, or a ghost or something, like just knocks over the paint to lead her to the phone number to call. So there's all these great little details like that.
Yeah, they're basically like, what do you call it? They're the bad guys, the evil nuns, I guess. Mm-hmm. They're manifesting all this stuff to happen. They're like doing these little seances and little rituals to make sure that every step of Charlie going into Peter's body is happening.
Yeah.
And they have to do it in very obvious ways and not so obvious ways. And what's so great about the film is that it shows you every single way and reason that they're doing this, but it's not pointed. It's not like shoving it in your face and being very explanatory about all of it. It's just like slowly revealing what's actually happening.
And it does actually show you, and this actually I think plays into Eddington as well, the way that the family starts to blame each other for everything, not really focused on the forces at play that are manipulating all of them. They don't realize that they're in the same boat, you know? Like even Annie says during that famous I Am Your Mother scene, she says, you'd think that this tragedy would bring us closer together, but nobody can admit anything they've done, so it doesn't. And in a way, she's kind of right, because if they were brought closer together by that instead of driven apart, then maybe they would think, okay, something else is going on here, and they would actually communicate with one another. But because they're so hurt and they're human and they're going through this awful thing, it's just easier to blame each other.
Yeah,
it's easier to kind of resent one another.
And that's why Eddington makes sense for him to do Eddington, because that it then becomes very political in the same sense. It's like nobody's willing to admit that they were at fault. Instead, they want to blame other people of all the actions that's being done. And instead of just saying cops shouldn't be like choking out someone, they instead blame, people of color. There's a lot of blaming going around, but no one's able to say, yeah, this bad thing happened and it was this people's fault. Instead, they want to like mask it with something else or blame someone or project it onto something else.
And even in Eddington, what you're talking about it with the whole cop thing, and not to get off track, but they're protesting the cops in Eddington over what happened in another area.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say specifically what because we're not there yet, but there's 3 cops in Eddington.
Yeah.
They're like there's a part where they're like, defund the police, and Joaquin Phoenix is like, defund, do you want to see my fucking budget? Like I ain't got shit.
Yeah.
So they're like so isolated in a small town, but they just want to feel part of the thing.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, there's cops here, let's just blame them for let's just yell at them.
Yeah.
And it's very funny, and it's very sad as well. In a way, it's a little offensive to certain people, and I could see that as well.
And I was just making the correlation because, again, like in that scene in Hereditary, it's like we could get closer as people. We could get better as humanity, but instead we're just blaming everybody else other than ourselves.
Exactly. So, ultimately, because of that, they do summon the demon into Peter's body at the very end, or they put Charlie into Peter, rather.
Yeah.
It's kind of this layering of the little Russian doll situation or something like that. And then in this last scene, they're kind of praying to Payman in the new body, and you get this great like zoom out where the treehouse that they're in is like now a dollhouse.
Yes.
And so it just kind of bookends the film with these images of like now all the pieces are in place sort of thing.
And Ari Aster played a funny guy in that movie.
Yeah. The devil, really.
Yeah. I just like the idea that Ari Aster just I think it's just amusing to put these characters in such weird and unique places and just kind of seeing what's going to happen. And I just think he does it because it entertains him rather than always being like, let's get a definitive like answer to the end of these movies.
Yeah.
Instead, it's all of these movies kind of end kind of ambiguously, and the journey was just kind of the whole point of it. It was like he just wants to see what would happen, and like I don't know. I just feel like he's very entertained by the characters and the situations. A lot of people see
that as very smug on his part. I see it as like, well, it's a movie, so like to a degree, you kind of have to be. He relishes in the chaos a little bit.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
But
the thing about his films as well, like you were saying, is they all kind of end ambiguously because it's not about the solution to him. It's about showing how the problem festers and
Exactly.
manifests,
Yes.
and what's causing it, and what the characters could have done to avoid it, but they don't. And it's like, this is what happens in humanity over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it all leads to his newest film, Eddington, which takes a more literal, real-life approach.
Yeah.
And we'll get there, but it's like every single film is like that.
It's so good. I guess we should go on to Midsommar.
Well,
now.
last thing I want to say about Hereditary. Obviously, it's a movie about family drama. I have a soft spot for that, especially when it comes to parents, when it comes to grandparents. There's a specific dynamic in this movie that's just it's almost too specific. And I'm like, how did he make exactly my horror movie of like, I can't even say it on here, and that's what's so frustrating. I really want to just be like, this is what...
Well, so, yeah, we don't want to, like, air out all of your stuff, but basically, from what I know about his situations and his family dynamic, it is scary close to how...
it's fictionalized, but it's like...
Just the psychology of it all is very reminiscent to, like, how your life is.
It's crazy. So that is another reason that he stood out to me immediately. And then I was like, that's a coincidence. And then he made Beau's Afraid, and I was like, no, we had the same childhood. There's no way. But
Midsommar, not about family, but more about relationships.
It's about couples.
Yes.
I'm going to read the synopsis. Several friends travel to Sweden to study as anthropologists a summer... Wait, what? Oh, okay. That's just weirdly punctuated. I'm sorry. I'm going to start over. Several friends travel to Sweden to study, as anthropologists, a summer festival that is held every 90 years in the remote hometown of one of them. What begins as a dream vacation in a place where the sun never sets gradually turns into a dark nightmare as the mysterious inhabitants invite them to participate in disturbing festival activities. The sun does set. That's inaccurate. It just sets at weird times.
Yeah.
But... Midsommar, another great film.
I thought it was such a unique move in Ari Aster's part to make this film because Hereditary was so dark and so, like, not just as a theme in terms of themes, but in terms of like actually shooting the movie. It's a very dark movie, especially in like the last half of the movie. But Midsommar is such a light movie. It's very bright, colorful, and I just love that he goes in such a different direction visually, and yet still has these very dark themes and scary ideas, and yet you could place it in this world that's very light and colorful.
Yeah, so it's almost like a fairy tale of sorts.
Yeah.
But it's like a folk horror movie, but it's also a breakup movie, and that's kind of that genre that dictates the structure. Yeah. It's this. There has been so many movies that have replicated this kind of thing, where it's like, I mean, I guess I don't know if Midsommar was the first one. I'm sure it wasn't, but where it's like the characters going on a vacation, and then the people are really nice, but then they kind of start to be sinister. And there's other movies like that. Blink Twice, Opus came out this year or last year, and so that kind of thing is used a lot, and this is one of the better ones.
Yeah, and it's very reminiscent of like The Wicker Man and
The Wicker Man for
classic,
sure,
like folk horror type movies. But what makes this different is how it presents the cult, and I think in most movies they make cults to be very scary and almost like obvious. Yeah. Like they're obviously a cult, and this movie does make it very obvious that they're a cult, but they're so welcoming. And I think that's the scary part about this movie, is that it's not all the body horror stuff or the people dying. It's more about the fact that cults are as dangerous as they are because of how welcoming they are. They will take you in and make you feel welcomed and held and at home when especially if you don't feel like you have one of those in real life. And that's how people are like roped into it, and it's so easy to get roped into a cult. You don't even notice it until it's too late.
Right.
And that's the scary part about Midsommar. I think I was talking to someone like a few weeks ago, and they were like, Midsommar's not very good. It's I forgot why they said it wasn't very good, but they were just saying it was a bad horror movie, and I was like, no, it's a great horror movie. It's one of the better horror movies that's ever been out, because the horror isn't on the surface. It's very buried and deep within the psychology of people itself, and the horror is the fact that it's so easy to be transitioned into a cult. That's the scary part. The scary part is how humans are so fragile that one or a few incidents can happen, and it could change
without proper support.
Yeah,
you know,
can ruin a life. Like it can change you in ways that are devastating.
And it'll lead you to some bad places, and you'll turn to things. I mean, I see this happens positively as well. That's the thing. Like this is a horror movie, so it's dark, but this also happens. I guess maybe I shouldn't say positively, but it happens in less life-altering or personality-altering ways than that. Like, I mean, you could even say that because of something you go through in your life, you could, like, watch a specific movie at a specific time, and it's a propaganda film.
Yeah.
And it just, you just become a new person. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you just start going down that rabbit hole of all this different stuff. Like, if you see, and that's the thing, we have so much noise around us with social media and everything that's so dangerous. But again, it all takes this very welcoming, kind of communal, kind of not light, but like funny, absurd approach in a way, and in the way that it looks, that like you don't even realize it nowadays. Yeah. Where you can see something on social media at the right time, given what you're going through in your life, and it can just click with you, and then suddenly that's just how you think.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it might not be good because we don't always question things like that.
The amount of memes I see where it's just a picture of a guy like in a suit, and it's like, I just watched a new movie, and this is my personality now.
And that happens to me all the time. That happens to me all the time. You'll see next week. That happens to me all the time. Like, it's and I mean, I try to remain cognizant, right? But it's like, no, I literally watch, I don't know. I was at a table with you and a bunch of our other friends, and you guys were talking about M. Night Shyamalan a couple years ago. I've always liked M. Night Shyamalan, always. Yeah. But you guys were like talking about his bad movies and his flops, and some movies that I think are good and I've always thought are good, but like not a lot of people like. And then, one of our friends said, like, was judging me for liking those movies, and they hadn't even seen them. And so I was like, that's annoying.
Yeah.
And then I literally, after that, I was like, I'm just going to watch all of his movies. I rewatched all of his movies, and that shit literally fundamentally changed. Like, it changed so much of how I, like, watch movies now and, like, how I think about things. And who knows? There's probably negatives to that I'm not, that I'm not thinking about. And I'm kind of just like, I mean, I think it's always good to love art and to love things and to have something you're passionate about.
I think,
but there's some glazing.
Sure, I think. So the thing about like watching movie, having it become your personality, that could be fun and all, but I don't like the idea of idolization of some person or something to the point where they're always going to be right. They're always going to be in the right, no matter what. Their avoidance of any criticisms at all.
Right.
And I think that could skew a lot of people. Again, even in Midsommar, the whole it's all political. Like that's what great art is political. Like that one.
Well, that's what art is.
Yeah, art is inherently political, and Midsommar is political in the fact that, again, it's so easy to get into a cult and feel like you're being held, and you feel like you're among people that understand you and know you. And if you look at the political landscape of today, MAGA is a cult. Like,
Yeah.
they bring you in, they make you feel like you're seen, and they give you all the resources that you want.
Yeah, it's like we hate the same people as you,
and
we were betrayed by the same people as you, you know.
yeah, and that's why there's a lot of them out there, and that's why it's very prevalent. And it's because of their idolization of Trump and their idolization of these ideas that even intelligent people just a few years before all this happened could not see this coming because of the psychological manipulation of these ideas. And now these people that used to be like very intelligent, very forward thinking, are now, they've kind of reduced themselves to these very specific and niche things that aren't actually that important or great or truthful.
Mm-hmm.
And now we just have a big political cult on our hands, and that is the scary part. That's why these movies are scary, because it's so easy to be put in that situation. Like who knows, 20 years down the road, like someone as smart and as intelligent as us can be put in some kind of tunnel vision.
I don't know. I don't like to say that I'm very smart, but I get what you're saying.
I think that you're fairly smart. You have a pretty good head on your.
We're aware.
We're aware, but
at least I'd like to think.
But it's scary to think that maybe 20 years down the line, we're going to be tunnel vision into this idea that we think is the good one, but is actually probably not.
Yeah, because of propaganda, basically.
Yeah, it's...
What I mean to say is not that this can be done positively. I think that was the wrong word. What I meant is that it can be done in like smaller, lighter ways as well. Like me with M. Night. I think he's like an infallible fucking god and all that stuff, as much as, you know, some of my obsession with his movies would lead you to believe. It's like, but it is more of just a like, I think I was going through something specific at the time that I decided to watch his movies again, and I felt so, like, just studying his career and everything, I felt so, I guess you could say, held and seen by that journey and those, a lot of those movies and a lot of the philosophies of them, that I was like, this is so awesome, and he kind of became my favorite filmmaker after that. And I think that's great, right? That's awesome. But it's like, obviously I'm not averse to disliking his movies. Like, I feel like he could come out with a movie and I just wouldn't like it. And you know, I'm trying to like give myself the time to kind of like be like, okay, like let's look at this and try to be level-headed about it at the same time.
I mean, it could be hard with subjects such as movies because they're so subjective.
Yeah.
And you could either pull which way or the other, and you could make some kind of valid argument for it.
Right.
But that's also the kind of the point of art. But when it comes to ideologies and politics,
right, exactly,
that's a bit scarier because there that
has real effects.
Yes.
Very much real effects, very much dangerous effects on everything. As much as it can be made fun of. Yeah. It is very much a real problem. Like, me watching Trap a bunch of times in theaters is not hurting humanity.
Yeah.
It's just me being kind of silly. But but I'm just saying it takes small and large forms. I'm not saying I've been indoctrinated into an M. Night Shyamalan cult, but I am admitting that timing is everything. And when you are feeling a certain way and then you just get exposed to the right thing at the right time, that will become so important to you in ways that you kind of don't even understand in the moment.
Yeah.
Right? And that's all I'm trying to say. When it happens with art, there's a beauty to it. But when it happens with something very serious, you really have to think critically about this stuff.
Yeah.
And try to separate yourself from it. Because as Eddington teaches us, not to get off topic again, it's very personally driven most of the time. And yeah, Midsommar is very, very scary for that reason.
Yeah.
We see Florence Pugh's character, Danny, and her relationship with her boyfriend Christian, just like he's kind of just dragging along in this relationship, dragging his feet, not wanting to really. He's too cowardly to end it, but he doesn't really care about her anymore.
Yeah.
And
so what happens is that he was trying to end the relationship with her, and then her family dies. Like all of her family dies.
In a horrible way. Her sister commits a murder-suicide.
Yeah.
Ends her life and the parents. There is a theory that the cult did that.
Yeah.
Because you could see, again, details in Ari Aster movies. You can see a picture of Dani on the nightstand of her parents surrounded by flowers like the May Queen. Like a ridiculous amount of flowers.
Yeah.
You know, and that could be a detail in the production design, but also it could mean that the cult did it. You know? And I think that's actually something that Ari Aster is always touching on is it the cult? Or is everything the cult? Is some of it the cult? Or is the cult just capitalizing on something that happened naturally?
Yeah.
And I think that is something, I think he's not presenting you, again, with a finality or a solution to that or an answer, but it's more of like these are important questions to be asking in your day-to-day life, you know?
It's like, where's the manipulation coming from?
Where does it start and end?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyway, go on.
Well, yeah. Well, and now the boyfriend's kind of in this shaky situation where he wanted to break up with her, but if he breaks up with her now after her family's passed away, he's going to look like the asshole.
Right.
He is the asshole, but he doesn't want to project himself that way by breaking up with her, even though he honestly should have. But he was tiptoeing around it. And then he has this group of friends that are going to go to Sweden to do their research for their thesis, and he kind of invites her along because he feels bad for her, and she kind of feels left out of that situation. She kind of, in a way, forces him to bring her along to make him feel bad about not inviting her in the first place. And so we're just in this like tension relationship drama where they don't want to be together, but they kind of have to be together to make it look like it's all good and great.
Right.
And because, again, she doesn't feel like he actually loves her, which he doesn't.
Yeah. And
she feels like she has no one else to kind of latch onto and feel supported and, like they say in the movie, held. The cult, the Hargis in the movie, they are the ones that fill that position and are like, we can make you feel at home. Here, help us bake some of these goodies.
Yeah,
here,
and they cry with her. They weaponize empathy.
Yes.
Where they kind of sit in her feelings with her and cry with her, and like that is something I think a lot of people need. They need to feel like their emotions are being felt through others and that they're being empathized with. And when they're not getting that from the sources that you should be getting that from, like their friends and family and people who actually care about them that they actually know, they'll just turn to people who don't even fucking know them. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, as much as I love M. Night movies, as much as this is like weird that I'm bringing this up on this podcast, but as much as I like his movies, I don't know that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as much as I admire his work and I admire his philosophies on life, and I do think it's helped me a lot in my creative endeavors, I don't know that guy. He could do something in the future that is bad. I don't think he will, but he could. And like if he just used AI in his next movie, that would piss me off.
Yeah.
That would be like, damn, like that's unfortunate, right?
Yeah.
There's just a certain degree of like I'm not going to be like, oh, but it's okay cuz he's M. Night and he's doing it, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Like no. I would cry. I would be really sad about it because I do love that guy and I do love his movies, but it's the same thing with Ari Aster. I mean, I'm super invested in his films, and I love his movies. Like I said, it's literally my favorite movie he directed.
Yeah.
But I'm not averse to it's always good to just remain introspective and remain like your happiness and your the way you live your life should not be allowed to be dictated by a higher force or a person that you idolize or look up to, whether that be your parents or your government or your boyfriend or
and
whatever.
I think that's kind of the point that Ari Aster is trying to make with all these movies is that you shouldn't be held down to these higher beings or higher people that are trying to control your life.
And it's like in this movie, you see Danny kind of go from like leaning on one thing and then it doesn't work out until leaning on another. You know, that makes her feel more uplifted and powerful. And
again, the cult is evil, and though it seems like they're empathizing with her, but they're the ones that are making her feel that negative energy in the first place. They're creating the problem, providing the solution. And again, we keep going back to politics because again, all of this is politics. All of this stuff is political. It's the same with the Trump people, where they're creating problems and then they're fixing it and saying that they were the ones that are the heroes for fixing the problems, even though they created the problems.
Right.
The whole tariff stuff. He started the problem, but now he takes the tariffs away and he's like, oh, look, the economy's better. I wonder why the economy is better. Oh, well, you were the one who dropped the economy in the first place, and because you took the tariffs back again, the economy is growing again, and you're like taking the credit for a growing economy that is like worse than it was before, but because it's growing, it makes you look good.
Yeah.
And they're just creating problems just to solve it and take the credit for it.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. It's like this is the people. These are the cult leaders that people are following, and they just can't seem to get their. They can't seem to just see through all the BS.
Right.
This is a bit different with Midsommar because she can't see through the BS because it's so well manipulated, because there's so many things working against her. But if you see the extended cut, have you seen the director's cut?
Yeah.
She does, like, in that version, push back a lot on the cult, and she's like, we need to get out of here.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? These people are dying in front of us,
Yeah.
and you're just like saying it's fine. But I think for most people, they don't have that foresight. They don't have that willingness to be able to say, no, this is crazy. This is what we're seeing is wrong. I think the turn is much more low key, and they're turning to becoming someone that they didn't expect to be, and to kind of follow in this cult is much scarier when you're kind of you're just kind of oblivious to the fact that you're being put into a cult.
Right. Yeah.
Great movie.
Great fucking film. Oh man, we're getting
really
into it. I didn't even realize how relevant some of this stuff was until we kind of started to really chip away at it.
And we even skipped the whole, like, the first shot of the movie is the tapestry.
Yes, the first shot is this big tapestry that kind of illustrates exactly what's going to happen.
It literally, it's
like a prophecy.
Yeah, it's a big thing with a bunch of characters and things happening on the tapestry.
And it's a little non-literal.
But it basically tells you what's going to happen in the movie. Once you've seen the movie and you understand what's happening.
Right.
It shows you what's going to happen.
And that's kind of typically what he kind of does, is like he has this first shot that kind of just shows you the problem of the movie and like what's going to happen, and it's like you're just watching these characters just fail time and time again to avoid this problem. Beau is Afraid is slightly different.
Yeah.
I guess we should get into that now.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is my favorite movie, and the thing is about this one,
do you want to read the synopsis first?
I guess I'll read the synopsis first. It's not a very detailed synopsis. Following the sudden death of his mother, a mild-mannered but anxiety-ridden man confronts his darkest fears as he embarks on an epic Kafkaesque odyssey back home.
It's very... I like that synopsis because it really tells you everything you need to know about the movie.
It is very Kafkaesque, and it's very much an epic. That is what dictates the pace.
Yeah.
And the structure of the movie. But I think it's pretty fucking random. There's a lot of like random stuff in the
Well,
movie.
it's not random.
Well, it's not random. I'm just saying it's random feeling.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people love the first half of the movie or the first third of the movie because it's really the most funny part.
Yeah.
And then once it kind of gets slow and psychological and you're kind of trekking through this 3-hour runtime, people just kind of lose interest. To me, the middle of the movie is the best part, which is this scene that's in the trailer and that's in a lot of the posters where he's in this like fake play world that he projects himself into, because that is like that's like a what could be scenario of a climax to the movie, and then you kind of get the rest of it, which is like failure to achieve that. Like,
it's a tragic movie.
This is a tragic movie. To me, this is a film about, well, the first shot is him being born. It's a POV of Beau being born, and his mother immediately is already like, did you drop him? Did you kill my baby? Like, you can see how she's so anxiety ridden, and she's so worried about, she's already blaming the doctors for, how the baby is being delivered. And then,
well, anything that's not in her control is gonna be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, she even says, "You made me have him," and you can't tell if she's talking to the father or if she's talking to the doctors. Maybe they recommended she had the baby, like maybe the baby came out early or something like that. Something else you see from the first image of the movie is that Beau has these huge balls.
Yes.
And that's because
yes.
I think it is an ironic joke to the fact that it's called Beau is Afraid, but he has physically the biggest balls you've ever seen.
Yes.
So it's an irony, but then also it's because he has never ejaculated through his whole life.
Yeah.
He's literally afraid to ejaculate in the movie. And that is almost the titular fear of the movie.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is like a fear, any kind of intimacy is just like a fear for him, because he's kind of been taught to mistrust everything that doesn't come from his mother. Yeah. Everything that's not put, literally his mother owns everything that he consumes, everywhere the place he lives at, everything, as we come to find out throughout the movie, every person that he interacts with is very much dictated by his mother. So she's kind of created this reality in a way through her power of corporate control over everything.
Again, it's like the theme of manipulation.
Right, but it's like, it's almost like, this is a lot more, I think, a psychological movie where you're seeing how it feels, presented very literally, how it feels to have this kind of parent that like needs to have their stamp of approval, literally their logo, like this logo, on everything, and that is perfectly safe. This is the safe stuff. The stuff that I tell you is safe. And when you live your whole life, I'm speaking from personal experience, when you live your whole life never really seeing outside that box, when everything, all the information and all the advice and all the comfort comes from this one source that is also very insecure and fragile at the same time. It's like, the source that doesn't like to not be in control and will respond to things emotionally, and it's not, not always, the recommendations are not always in Beau's best interest. But it's like this, it takes so long, for the longer the worse, right? For something to be presented as contradictory to that from outside the comfort zone. The parent in this movie is like an architect of Beau's comfort zones and makes everything his comfort zones and makes everything else look so scary. And then when everything else looks so scary, there's always like a moment or two where you try to step out and you get punished, or something happens, or something dangerous, or you get hurt. And then it's like, oh, now I feel like I'm a shitty son. I've betrayed what my mom always told me was okay, which is like what's perfectly safe. And now I'm not going to do that again. And so you kind of see how he tried to step a toe out of line and really challenge something, his mom said, and go for a new experience. And because that didn't work, because that seemed like a punishment and seemed like it was as dangerous as she described, then it's like you just live your whole life kind of like never wanting to do that again. And that's how easy it can be to be manipulated in that way.
Yeah. Beau is afraid of everything.
Well, of everything, but specifically of intimacy, because I think it comes from a selfish need on the mother's behalf to never have someone be more important than her in his life. But also, so to me, her intention behind manipulating him is, this movie is, the whole thing is a trial, a test. And it's shown in the ending of the film, is a literal trial for his, how good of a son he is, basically. She wants to present obstacles for him to get to her, but she wants him to have confidence, to have the ability to overcome trials and to overcome these obstacles, but only if the guiding intention is to get back to her. Yes. Only if the intention is, I can't disappoint my mother. And so that's what she's testing him on, because she is so painfully insecure that she's like, I need him to prove that he loves me by putting all these obstacles between us and watching if he'll actually climb over them and actually get over them himself. Not for him, but for me.
Yeah, and that's the problem. is she wants a specific outcome that's never going to happen. Like, she's forcing these things on him, and she wants him to do specific things, but because she raised him in such a way, it prevents him from actually doing the things that she actually wants him to do. Like, it's this weird irony about it. It's because he was so sheltered from childhood, he has no experience to go out and be his own person and do his own thing, and because he can't do that, there's no sense of wanting to go for what he actually wants to do.
Right.
And say if his mom was more regular, she didn't manipulate him and control anything of his life, and something bad did happen to her, because he would actually have genuine love for her and respect for his mother, he would do the things that she would initially want him to do. He would go.
The thing is, he would do it either way, but it wouldn't be driven by fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because she instilled such fear in him, he doesn't want to do. He's too afraid to do any of those things. Mm-hmm. So she's putting him in a place that is going to end bad for him either way, and that just showcases how selfish she is and why it's not his fault for that. That's why it's so tragic, is because honestly, it's not his fault for any of this stuff. He was kind of put in this position and was psychologically like tormented by his mother through guilt and other factors that he physically cannot do the things that are necessary for most people to do, and yet she's asking for him to do it. And that's the hypocrisy of it all, and the irony of it all is she's asking him to do things that he obviously can't do because you made him the way he is.
Right. And so when I saw this movie, like, every character seems very hostile in this film, and it's because that's the way they're supposed to be by her design. There's only really one character in the movie, played by Amy Ryan, Grace.
Yeah.
She kind of tries to clue him in on what's actually going on, but it all, because you're watching the movie for the first time, it all kind of feels very random. But she is kind of she's challenging the situation because she is a mother in the movie, and she's kind of like just seeing the wrongdoings of what's going on. But her husband and her daughter are also part of the scheme, so she kind of has to hide it from them.
Yeah.
And so you see there's just this middle section of the movie where she's trying really hard to like clue Beau in on things that she does care about him genuinely, and
because she's probably a good mother.
Yeah, and she's just like super confused. But then even she turns on him. It's so funny because I think this, well, it's not funny, but you know, it kind of is. There's this puritanical judgment that everyone has nowadays, right? And I think that is another thing in this movie that's so heavily explored, is like just the fact that he's so watched all the time, and it's like everyone is so on the mom's side in this movie that they're all waiting for him to fuck up, and they're all kind of like baiting him to fuck up. Yeah. And when he does, when part of basically, I don't know how to really explain this part, but her Grace's daughter basically blames Beau for vandalizing their son's room, and then she drinks paint
yeah,
and kills herself.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, it seems like that character is just so young, and she's involved in this horrible situation, this big scheme, and she hates how everyone else is like kind of acting along with it, and she's just kind of become a nihilist as a result.
Yeah.
And I think that's why she kind of takes her own life, and then, the mom obviously sees that and blames Beau for it, because I don't think that was part of the plan. I think that was something the kid did on her own.
Yeah.
And so because of that, she turns on him immediately. She says, "I see you now. Like, I see what everyone's talking about now."
Yeah.
And so it's just this really interesting mother-son dynamic where the mother has basically convinced everyone that her son is the problem. He's essentially on trial for that, and it's like his final test of like, can you actually be a good son? But he doesn't even know he's on trial. He just thinks the world is just crazy and upset at him.
Yeah.
For no reason. When I watched this movie, I actually thought, like, it was so crazy to see that visually realized, because I was like, that is literally how it feels. Like, that is literally how I feel about almost any situation, is that there is like a trial waiting, and that I actually have a running joke with a lot of our friends, because Richard Kind plays the lawyer that's like giving him his sentence at the end of the movie. And I just whenever I feel guilty about something now, I just say,
yeah, Richard Kind.
Richard Kind is going to hear about this.
Yeah.
When I die, Richard Kind is going to tell me about this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's my way of saying I feel incredibly guilty about this, and it's maybe irrational.
Yeah.
Right? God, it's just, there's so much in this movie. I feel like we could do a whole episode on this movie alone.
Yeah.
But it really is like this existential anxiety comes from this
there's
kind of
also
parenting.
The whole thing about, that like the Jewish guilt and
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And if you want to get political about it again, it's very much in there, because as people who are grown up Jewish, they're afraid of everything. They were kind of taught to be afraid of everything because of World War II and the Holocaust and all that. And you see all these people in Israel, they're kind of Israel was brought up to believe that everything is against them, and so that's why they have, IDF and all these people who are like gung-ho about being in the military and like defending themselves, because they don't want Holocaust 2.0 to happen to them. But by doing that, they've kind of reverted themselves to the other side of the political spectrum, and now they are the bad guys in the situation, because they're so afraid of being taken over. They want to take over everybody else. And that's kind of the political stance that we are right now. It's this very crazy, ironic thing that's happening in the political world with Israel and, Iran and all that, where you have this history of, anti-Semitism that was so prevalent and so dangerous that it backfired on itself, and now all these Jewish people, all these Israelites they're in a position where they don't want that stuff to happen again ever, obviously, but by believing so heavily in protecting themselves, they don't see other people who aren't Jewish as, allies. Everybody's an enemy to them now. And, the U.S. is the only people supporting them and supporting what they're doing, because we just have close ties with them. And it's very scary and dangerous, and it's kind of this generational trauma that's kind of causing this political turmoil on that side of the world. And you could see that in Beau's Afraid, because he's so afraid of everything that no matter any good that he does is going to backfire, because it was instilled in him that everything and everyone around him is evil and bad. And that's the same with Israel right now. It's like they were so instilled with fear of having the Holocaust happen again that everything and everybody around them is bad. So they have to fight that, even if it's a fight that doesn't need to happen.
Yeah. And it's so great how art can be both personal and political at the same time. Like,
Yes.
this movie is so intimately personal to me, but it's also, like you were just explaining, and very political as well. And it's not one or the other, guys. Like, it's not. A lot of people will say this movie's not political. They all are.
They all are, and that's why Ari Aster, to me, is just one of the great filmmakers of today, because you could watch these movies at such a surface level and still be shocked and entertained and funny, and it could be scary, and it could just be like surface level entertainment. But the deeper you look, you get more personal with Ari Aster, you get political, you get this psychological socio ideas that he's presenting to the audience, and it's all connected. It's all like there's a lot of there's deeper meanings to all of these movies that people aren't even getting close to digging up, because they just see it as another A24 movie that just like,
that's weird and trippy. Yeah, because it's like these movies are all essentially about humans and how easily we allow ourselves to be manipulated. Sometimes it's not our fault. Sometimes we kind of lean into it because of like what's going through. I mean, a lot of the time it's not our fault. I think Ari Aster is rather sympathetic to this, because he understands how it can happen very easily to someone. Not always through their own choices. Like with Beau, he was literally born into it. There was no way to escape it from the very beginning. And to me, the most important scene in this movie, the most impactful scene that really solidifies it for me, is that middle section in the play, because you see how it's the one area of the movie where we don't see his mother's logo everywhere. We don't see her manipulative touch on anything, because it's this outside of the off the grid kind of group of people called the Orphans of the Forest that are a play troupe, and they just put on different plays, and they even say like, we like to blur the line between the audience and the players, and like, you know, they're just making all this art, right? And it's very it's just very like artsy and crafty and stuff. And there's a lot of foreshadowing in that section for later stuff in the film. But when the play is actually put on, it's this guy who's orphaned. His mom and dad are dead. And then he's like, you know, if I stay here in this feeling, like I will die, or I can go and make my own way and live my own life. And he's got chains attached to his feet, and he breaks the chains, and as soon as he breaks the chains, that guy transforms into Beau, and we get this very lengthy sequence of him walking through, and a narrator is describing how he builds his own life, his own land, his own house, he has a family. And he even says, like, it's a very funny line, but it's like, it's really meant to hammer home this point of like, this could never happen to Beau in his current state, where it says, your wife will become pregnant because you have sex with her. Like, it's like, because you can, in this reality, you can do that. You know what I mean? And it's kind of exactly what I was saying with Midsommar. Like, the way that you can get hit with the right thing at the right time, where you're like, oh, this is speaking to me. This is like my story. This is about me. And even if it's not. And I really kind of reckoned with that when I saw this movie, because I tend to do that. Like, I watched Hereditary, and I was like, dude, this is so specific to like what I'm going through. But then at the same time, I am a lot like Beau as a person, and I would feel very guilty about that. I would be like, oh, but should I be doing that? Does that mean I'm, you know, hateful towards these people in my life that are kind of feel like the movie characters, or am I selfish? Am I just putting myself into everything? You know what I mean? Yeah. But no, that's what art is for, really, as well. You know, there's two sides to it.
I think every filmmaker wants their films to be personal to people. Like, they want a connection and the bigger connection, the better. But I don't think it's a problem whenever it's so niche that even the connection is as niche as someone like you, where it's like only someone like you could really have those very detailed experiences that you feel related to.
Yeah.
And I think every filmmaker that makes a movie, admires and respects the people that, really latch onto their movies. Like they're not. I feel like filmmakers who make movies just for themselves can be very therapeutic for them, but it could also mean a lot to other people as well.
And people say that this is one of those movies that's only for Ari Aster, and I'm living proof it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. There is a lot of people that relate to this movie that I know too, and for that specific segment, it's this like almost emotional triumph in the middle of the movie, and it's super weird, and then it kind of gets just completely deflates so quickly because he realizes that this can't be his story, and this because he can't have children, and so if the character he projects himself as has children, it can't be. He kind of like the line blurs between his real life and that, and then the children in the play start to question him. They're like, "How could you have possibly done that? You can't come, dude." Like,
well, to give a little backstory, just in case anybody hasn't seen this, the reason why he doesn't come is because his mom told him that that if he does, he'll die. So
Yeah.
he just thinks that if I even ejaculate, I'm just gonna die,
Right.
because I guess his father died doing the same thing.
Yeah. Well, she literally says like the instant you were conceived is when he died.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
where
this almost like. Yeah, it's this like defining story that she gave to him as a bedtime story.
Yeah,
and it just
as a young kid, which is crazy.
It just teaches him immediately, like, oh, not only was that awful and he died and I could die the same way, but it was also excruciating for my mother. She says that. She's like, you can't even imagine how painful it was for that to happen.
Yeah.
To me. And so it further kind of solidifies this, like, I'm, in a weird way, I'm hurting my mother by doing that. Or I'm hurting the person I'm doing that with as well. And then she kind of goes and orchestrates a thing where that kind of does happen. But, we don't have to really get into the nitty gritty of it. But yeah.
We can,
but the play scene is great. It's just this great moment of like even someone like Beau, who's lived in this hostile reality, who's afraid of everything, can look at a piece of art and really see what he wants out of his life in it, and or who he is in it, and see how a person like him can break free of the chains that he finds himself in. And that is something I think, not that Beau is Afraid did for me, obviously, because this is a more cautionary movie. It's not, like I said, it's not a solution. Like, Aster is never giving us the solution.
Yeah.
But it is, in a way, cautionary. It's like, if you don't stop incriminating yourself, if you don't stop believing that you're on trial, you will drown in your own comfort zones. The idea of water in this movie is so important because water is the mother's love. It's the thing that you kind of need to survive, and it sustains you. But also, if you have too much of that, you will drown, and that's what happens to him. Like he cannot physically move. He cannot pick himself up because of the way that he was programmed, essentially, and he just drowns in his own comforts, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the way that she instills part of that in him is through his relationship with this girl, Elaine, that I mentioned, played by Parker Posey excellently.
She's great.
And yeah, there's this hilarious sex scene between the two of them, but he meets her as a kid on a cruise with his mom. It's one of those times where he really kind of met somebody that he wanted to talk to.
Yeah.
And then I think what ends up happening is his mom kind of manipulates that situation as well.
Yeah, I feel like in the movie, she kind of forces the girl to hang out with him, but then they do kind of form a genuine connection, and that's kind of out of the bounds of what the mom really wanted.
Here's what I think happened.
Yeah.
I think on the cruise, because the first scene we get is him looking at her from a distance, and the mom is like, "Oh, like you is that the kind of girl you're attracted to? Like, do you like her?" And she kind of notices that he's seeing her, and then that's, I think what probably happened is at that point she probably manipulated Elaine and her mom on the cruise, like through her influence and how much money she has, to do this one performative thing. So she hangs out with Beau, and then towards the end of the cruise, the one scene where Elaine doesn't feel like she's being genuine during that child sequence, or at least there's two parts. There's the one part which I heavily relate to, which is where she's taking him through a food buffet, and she's like, "How about the rainbow cake?" And he's like, "The colors make cancer." And "How about this?" And he's like, "Oh, people hide razor blades in those."
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, that's me. That's me. Like, there's so many times where I'm hanging out with people randomly, and I'm just like, well, that'll give you cancer, or that'll kill you, or whatever. Like, I don't know, microwave. I mean, microwave, I guess, can, but not just from using it casually. But there's these limits to these things and these specifics that I wasn't taught, and I don't know the extent of the danger. And so when sometimes I have said things in hangouts with people where they're like, "What are you fucking talking about, Peyton? Like, that is not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
You can do that."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Really? I can?"
Yeah, that conversation has happened between us several times.
Yeah. So then she says, like, "We're allowed to kiss." And she goes, "But only for the next 10 seconds." Like it's a cue.
Yeah.
And she counts him down, and then they kiss each other. And then Elaine's mom is like, "Elaine, what are you doing?" And then later she breaks into their him and his mom are sleeping together on the cruise in the same bed, and she busts into the room, and she's like, "They're taking me off the ship, they're taking me away, promise you'll wait for me, promise you'll wait for me," which also means he's never going to be with anyone but Elaine. So Elaine is set as this kind of thing that he's promised later, that's his. And so then eventually she grows up and works for his mom, and then comes back and shows up late to her funeral, probably on purpose, manipulated by the mom, when he gets there, and comes on to him. Because they, and Parker Posey plays it so great. She's like, doesn't really want to do it, but you could tell she kind of has to, like, do it a certain way.
Yeah.
Because Beau's all fucking beat up and probably smells bad or something at this point in the movie.
Yeah.
So they hook up, and then he comes, and then she dies. She becomes completely paralyzed and fucking dies.
So it's the opposite. That's the thing with him, with Ari Aster. He's so subversive. Like he there's the whole buildup of, like, understanding that if he comes, he's gonna die, and then the moment happens,
and he's like relieved,
and he's fine. But then it's the other person that dies, and
so,
you're just like, what?
Not only is that very funny, it also, I think what happened is his mom chose Elaine because maybe she specifically has the condition that he was told he has. And so, because it only happens when she comes.
Yeah.
Like, he comes in and he's fine, and she's like, "Hold on, I want to as well." And then as soon as she does, she fucking dies. So, yeah, bad.
Yeah.
Bad stuff happens.
Really funny.
And then
one of the best scenes in the movie. It's so
yeah,
fun.
and then Beau's mom reveals herself to be alive at that point. In one of my favorite sections of the movie is just her monologuing to him at the end. And she reveals that his therapist has been hired by her, and this is where you kind of just get the idea that it really is the whole world.
Yeah.
Like, there's no safe net for him. And she says a line that, "Oh, it made me so upset when I heard it." And she is like, he's trying to leave, and she says, "Where are you going to go? You've spent your whole life asking every half-wit you could find, 'Oh, if I do this, can I avoid this, or will that happen?' As if you were born without the mechanism to choose. You let it all resolve itself in the absence of you. You let everyone do it for you. Do you think that makes you innocent?" And I was like, damn, movie. That's fucked up. Because it really felt like she was talking to me at that part.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we could pretty much talk about this movie forever.
We could. But I do want to real quick mention something very important, and that is that there is a giant penis monster in this movie that's supposed to be Beau's father. And I believe that is representative of his suppressed masculinity that has been, kind of, that she's kind of taken from him. And it is his monster in the attic, because I think his masculinity is something that he fears. Yeah. And that, your father is your kind of masculine, like, that's the person that you learn about masculinity from usually in your life is your dad, and he never had his dad, so it's like this kind of creature in the attic. It's like I don't want to be like that. Like it's almost like he is afraid of his own male genitals for many reasons. Yeah. So I mean, shit. It's I mean, it is my favorite movie. Like, I could talk about it forever, and this episode's really long now because we've talked about it for so long, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
There are times where you were talking about so much, I was just like, you should just write a book. You should just write, like, a long-form essay about this movie.
I wrote a review on Letterboxd. It's not my most recent one, but it's my second most recent one, and it's linked in my most recent one, because I want... That review that I wrote to me is like the perfect little, like, it's not very long, it's a little long, but it's like, that is like my kind of reference point. If people are like, why is this your favorite movie, why do you like it, read that. Right. So that's why when I even wrote another review for it, I was like, you have to read this other one, because I don't think I could actually describe it better than I did in that one. But yeah, great film, a masterpiece. It's the best.
Yeah, and 2 years later we get Eddington.
And this one, we've given reference to it so many times throughout the episode, because I think it all kind of comes back to Eddington.
Yeah.
Given that it's his most recent movie, and it is his most overtly political and literal film. Let's read the plot synopsis before we get carried away, and then we'll get into it. Plot synopsis says, in May of 2020, a standoff between a small-town sheriff and mayor sparks a powder keg as neighbor is pitted against neighbor in Eddington, New Mexico.
Yeah, pretty much.
It is a powder keg. That is a perfect way to describe the movie. Man, we've already talked about it a pretty decent amount, just referencing it and realizing how much it really informs you about Aster's whole thing that he's doing.
So, with all of his films, they're very secluded, which gives, merit to the whole dollhouse thing, where it's like you need the small area to just play around with these little, just a few handful of characters. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of done that with all of these films. And with Eddington, I still think he does that with just the town of Eddington, and just putting that town in the reality of our world, but still having the
dollhouse element. It's like this isn't our world, but this is my little play zone. This is my little fictional town that I'm making that is gonna tell you things about the world that I'm gonna use. These are all the little pawns I'm gonna use to do
exactly.
And there's a great shot that illustrates what you're saying at the beginning when the it's not the first shot of the movie, it's one of the first shots of the movie where the homeless guy arrives to the town, and it is a Western trope. The stranger comes into town. It's this homeless guy that has COVID, and so it's essentially the first COVID case that comes to the town.
Yeah.
And he's mumbling to himself, and I kind of want to analyze what he says on future watches and see if there's any sense or rhythm to it at all. I don't know if there is. But it's really funny. The actor is great.
Knowing Ari Aster, there's probably
something to it. But he walks in and you can see it's like on this hilltop, and down there it almost looks like a miniature, everything that's going on. So you're right about that.
Yeah, the town is very small. Like you could see all of it within just
exactly. Especially in the last shot of the movie as well. But in the beginning, I just love the homeless guy. It's the first shot of the movie, and we always got to mention the first shot because it's very important. It's him walking, aimlessly, and then pans up, and he's spitting, showing that he's very infected with something. He's coughing, and then he walks past a billboard for Solid Gold Magikarp, which is the name of the new AI data center that is being built just outside of Eddington, New Mexico. And it's this really obscure reference to old GPT models where you could type in Solid Gold Magikarp and it would just result in this very glitchy behavior. And I think he's trying to parallel that with how COVID kind of infected our culture and made everything kind of glitchy and fucked up.
Yeah.
But then also a Magikarp is a Pokemon that is really weak at first and then evolves and becomes very dangerous. So it's this something that's very like non-threatening at first, and then it gets bigger and bigger before we even realize it.
Yeah.
And that's the AI part of it. I just love the ramblings of that homeless guy. A box of mud at the beginning.
Yeah, well, but that's also like the thing with his first shots of his films, or the first like kind of scenes of his films, is kind of showcasing the problem at the very beginning.
Right.
And this movie just gives you the problem. It gives you COVID, and it gives you the growing of AI.
Yeah.
For each political spectrum, like what their problems are gonna be, and then it just like
it's almost it's so strangely scary, because it's almost like the guy is the physical manifestation of COVID in the movie, and it's almost like COVID is like this agent of AI. It's like this perfect like little storm that was created, where it's like we have this virus that we can't properly deal with because we can't agree on how to handle it. And yet, because of that, we're ignoring the AI thing that's going on.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, it's almost like they're working together, but they're not.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's just like this very conveniently awful thing that happened.
It's like a domino effect. It's like each occurrence of something happening in that political sphere that happens just affects something else that makes it bigger and bigger and grow to such a crazy ending or a last act.
God, I love it. It's great.
So good. But I really think this movie is just a mirror towards the American people, and being like, this was you guys in 2020. Yeah. You guys were one of these characters in this movie, and they're all awful.
Yes, and here's the thing, too. A lot of people, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, and I guess we can get into it a little more since we're doing spoilers, people are mad that they didn't really overtly use MAGA or Trump in this movie as much, because of how much that had a role in perpetuating the COVID issue and the everything that was going on. And you said something to me before we started recording this that I think made a lot of sense, and that's that. Well, not only there is a MAGA guy in the movie in like one scene, and there is several images of Trump as they're scrolling through the social media, and like it's this sort of thing where it's like you're scrolling through it and you're scrolling past all this stuff that's actually bad, that's actually happening, but then they're looking at like their friends post and they're like trying to decide their strategy. Oh, do I like this? Like, how, what does this say about me, sort of thing. Like, they're so worried about themselves and what they're doing that they're not even worried about the bad shit that's already happening. And I think that's the point of this movie.
Well, I think, and another point is he's highlighting people that are projecting. Like, these people are performative. He's not highlighting MAGA because, in a sense, a lot of the poor MAGA folk, they're not performative. They actually believe that stuff. That's why everybody's saying they're like in a cult, because they actually
anything,
believe
Midsommar was that movie.
Yeah, and they don't push anything from the left either, because again, they actually believe in doing the right thing and doing that stuff too. These are people that they're all in this political sphere because they're trying to perform for someone else or something else. Mm-hmm. And we have all these people just having sides, but the only reason they're on these sides are to really like get the attention of someone else, or to say that they're someone that they're not. For instance, there's this character Brian. He's this white kid who's friends with the mayor's son, Eric Garcia. And he gets very politically involved with the Black Lives Matter protest and movement. And it's not because he actually cares about that stuff. He's this white kid that lives with probably, and it's kind of showcased, they seem like Republican, very conservative parents. Yeah. The only reason he's doing this stuff is to impress a girl that's very into the movement.
But
as
even
well.
so, she's also a little like performative
And
as well.
she's also, yeah, again, she's performative about this because she doesn't want to look like, your usual white ally who's just like making it about themselves instead of making it about the movement, which they are obviously making it about themselves rather than making it about the movement. But she's also
like, but I know I'm a hypocrite. I know that I'm a hypocrite.
And
like,
she's also doing this to get the attention of a black cop, one of the black deputies in the town.
One of 3 cops, by the way.
Yeah, because they used to be in a relationship. So she's being performative for him.
Yeah.
And all these characters, whatever side of the politics they're on, they're doing it performatively.
They're doing it for the sake of their relationship, usually a personal relationship.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Joaquin Phoenix, Joe Cross, the main character, the sheriff, he has problems with his wife.
Yeah.
And so he wants to be mayor, I think, to make himself feel better about himself. And the reason he decides to run for mayor is literally because he's an anti-masker, and he goes into a store, and this guy is getting kicked out because he's not wearing a mask. And so he buys the guy's groceries to try and, do something nice for that guy. And then the guy takes a selfie with him, posts it, "Oh, only good guy left in Eddington," And then he's like, oh, wait, okay, so I can appeal to, like, these people. Like, there's people like this that will take my side.
Yes, and it's that on top of the fact that he already has a bad relationship with the mayor because the mayor used to be with his wife years ago.
Yeah, well, but it's like it wasn't like a serious thing.
Yeah.
We went out a couple times, but she didn't want to be touched, so I never touched her. And then 6 months later, her mom's saying I got her pregnant. And it's because her mom, who lives with Joaquin Phoenix and her, is like a conspiracy theorist, and she's trying to make all the she's like falling asleep to conspiracy theories in the house. And so I think Joaquin Phoenix is also influenced by that, and so that's why he kind of hates the mayor as well.
Yeah, it's not because they actually believe in anything. It's so that they could look good for other people. And by the end of the movie, Brian, the white kid, he actually gets that recognition, not for upholding his beliefs, which he doesn't have on the Black Lives Matter movement, but because he shoots some guy dressed as Antifa, and he's kind of put in this kind of like this Kyle Rittenhouse
kind of pedestal.
Yeah, where he's being praised for, owning a gun and shooting an Antifa person, and
which he's like, oh, I saved the sheriff. The sheriff, Joaquin Phoenix, is literally lobotomized by the end of the movie. It gets stabbed in the brain and just like can't do anything. But
but it just shows that it's all for the clout and social media
it's all kind
and
of
the likes.
What's the word? Advantageous in like whatever situation that they're in.
Yeah. And I think that's this whole movie. It's like none of this is all of this is personal. It's not actually political.
Yeah.
But they're using politics as a way to be personal, and that's why politics has been so heightened in the last few years, because
it becomes their personality.
Yes.
Something similar to the Midsommar thing. In fact, there is a mini Midsommar that happens in this movie between Emma Stone and Austin Butler's character, where she is indoctrinated into this kind of like Christian, like conspiratorial, like belief system that he puts out there.
Yeah, because I guess the Austin Butler character was assaulted as a kid.
Well, he said he was like sold off by his father to his father's friends, and then they were like abused and then hunted for sport, and he escaped.
Yeah.
And he says that he didn't have those memories until like it took years for him to like put together those memories.
Yeah. And honestly, if there's one thing about this movie, I feel like they should have expounded on those moments a bit more, because it really is just like a little piece of the movie where they talk about Austin Butler and Emma Stone's relationship.
Well, the thing is I do agree, but like I said, it's a mini Midsommar, because
Yeah.
you think about the scene in Midsommar where Pelle describes his parents dying in a fire, and he just kind of talks about how his experience is the same as hers, and it kind of like it forms this connection between the two of them.
Yeah, and it's so easy to get like
Yeah, because
roped
she's been
into
through
this
a lot
cult.
of trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he kind of is doing that again in this movie, but through a more literal and political lens.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I think that's not the focus, is because he already kind of delved into that dynamic a lot in his earlier film.
That's true. I also think it's not as much of a focus because it's not about the Emma Stone character. It's about what she represents to Joe Cross. And by the end of the movie, when she's like cut all her hair and she's pregnant, which is something he's always wanted with her, is to have a child with her.
And she didn't want to be touched.
And she didn't want to have a child with him.
He was trying to like take it slow, but he's doing that thing where like he wants to be respectful and take it slow because he wants to feel good about himself, but then at the same time he's actively trying to find ways to get her to do that.
Yeah.
To get her to start a family with him so that he can feel also better about himself. And then like I think he thinks running for mayor would help with that.
Yeah, I mean, this whole movie is about how selfishness like kind of leads you down the wrong path.
Yeah.
And there's so much going on in this movie. Like, I feel like every character has its own little like psychology, like little moment where you get to see really where they're coming from and why they're in the place that they are at the moment that they are, and why they align with certain ideas. And I just think that's really neat that they put it so heavily on the 2020 year and like that timeline, and how people just kind of everybody changed that year. They were now labeled as something that they probably wouldn't have been years before, or they're really aligning themselves with ideas that you didn't think could happen, but because it was kind of like I said, like this domino effect of COVID happening, then the George Floyd murder happening, it keeps escalating to an explosive point. And I just think it's such a neat little like culmination of all the emotions and the reality of the situation from that time put into this like movie.
Right.
And I don't know, it's just, I feel like everybody should watch this movie whether or not you know you're going to like it or not, or whether you have a feeling that you're going to like it or not. You should just watch this movie just to have an opinion on it, because I think it's very important. Because again, if you it's important to look back at history with a very objective lens, and kind of really look at like what happened at that time and why what happened and why people did what they did and felt what they felt. Because if we try to just erase that part of history, it's just going to repeat itself. And that's the problem, is that we keep trying to bury all this traumatic events and all these like bad stuff that we don't want to remember. And by doing that, and by burying all these things that have happened, our future generations aren't gonna acknowledge that, and they're just gonna do the same thing all over again.
Yeah, well, we can't learn from. We have to learn from history, or else it's just gonna repeat itself.
Yeah,
exactly. It's okay. I'm not gonna answer that. It's not my favorite Aster film, obviously, because I can't. Nothing tops Beau, and also Hereditary, just incredibly personal to me. But I think it really does show that he's so versatile, and he can tackle all of these different things through his style, and without really changing his, I guess, thesis and his philosophies on things very much. Because I think this film is kind of what he's been getting at in terms of like all these other movies and how they relate politically. It's like now he's just doing it straight, like he's just kind of going for it
Yeah.
and doing it straight on. And I think COVID was like the perfect kind of like incident for him to be like, okay, I feel like now I can make this movie.
Yeah, well,
You know?
which is interesting because he had written the first draft of Eddington like years before COVID happened, and then he
Well, I think
kind
it
of
was
translated it through the events that had happened.
Yeah, it was like a small town western, right?
Yeah.
But then, and maybe it was about a mayoral campaign, but then I think he obviously tweaked it and was just like, well, what if it was a small town during COVID? Because not only are these people isolated during COVID, but they're also isolated from the rest of the nation because they're in this small town.
Yeah.
And so when they seek community in these performative ways, again, Aster is not really asympathetic to these people. He's not really saying like, you know, he is kind of saying like, look at you guys, look at how you guys are acting, this is stupid.
Yeah.
But he's not. I think the characters in the movie feeling like so isolated during this time, especially in such a small town where they don't really feel like they have community. Like even the white kid Brian says at the beginning when they're all kind of meeting up, he's like, I feel like this is going to be in the news, the super spreaders. Like, you know, doesn't it feel weird that we're doing this? It's like almost exciting to him to just be around people because of what his life has probably been like through that year specifically, but also just in a small town. So I think that's what he's trying to get at is like he's not saying these kids, these young people are like terrible people necessarily, but you see how they kind of just as easily fall into this because of what their traumas are now and what they've kind of been through is like, or how they feel in the current, like I've been saying, it's you get exposed to the right thing at the right time and it'll change how you live your life.
And again, especially with this movie, it just showcases how social media is just as dangerous. Like that's the whole reason why people are being performative in this movie is to post things online and see what the reactions are going to be, and hopefully that's a good one.
Yeah.
And there's a few moments where Joe Cross doesn't know, and so he'll like talk shit about Ted Garcia, say that he's a rapist or something, and he's like, just post it. I don't.
Yeah.
Before I change my mind.
And it's the thing is that it is kind of like him at the end, just shooting bullets in the dark.
Yeah.
That's what we're all kind of doing. It's like we're shooting bullets into the dark. We don't even know who's shooting at us. We just know someone is.
Yeah.
And we're just like, shit, just spraying bullets everywhere. And yeah, it's a disastrous movie, like everything that goes over, but it's also just incredibly funny.
It's
at the same
super
time.
funny. It's I just think it's so unique in the fact that it doesn't really label itself as anything very particular. It's kind of all over the place. Not a lot of people have been saying that it's a messy movie. I don't think it is.
I think it's incredibly well paced.
I think it's pretty well paced. I think maybe it's going to depend on my second viewing, but the first time I saw it, I didn't really know where it was ending, so it kind of felt a little longer than I thought, but I feel like on a review, it's going to feel like the pacing is a lot better. But in terms of like messiness, I don't think it's messy at all. I think it's just, again, a mirror of what we were doing and what we look like. And society was messy at that point. And it's kind of mirroring what was happening at that time. And Ari Aster is too detailed of a director to just make a messy movie. Like, everything he does in his movies means something. Every little detail that he puts in his movies means something. And the way characters go about and the actions they take, they mean something. And if it feels messy, it's because it's supposed to feel messy.
Well, it's because it was a messy time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if that's your criticism, then congratulations, the movie did what it was doing, and you're just having an emotional reaction to it, which is the point of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I know you saw this too, but I saw a great video yesterday, and it was inspired by what Simon Pegg said in the Criterion Closet, which is that sometimes entertainment is an overrated function of art. It's like, and I do think Eddington is entertaining, that's the thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, if a lot of people associate a uncomfortable response to a piece of art as like oh, this movie's terrible. Like my mother hates horror movies and bad and gory movies. I'm trying so hard to get her to watch Beau's Afraid, but it's really difficult. But she hates like horror movies and gory stuff, and she says, "Oh, it's so unpleasant," you know. And it's like, well,
that's the point.
That's the point of a lot of stuff, is that you have to have unpleasant. You have to be able to lean into like feelings like that and sit in them and be like, why is this so unpleasant? What is it trying to say about the real world that's so unpleasant? Because if we only have art that portrays good, positive things, that's all great. But it's like, if we only have that, we're not going to learn a lot from art, you know?
Yeah, I feel
it's
like
just at that point, it's a distraction.
If people are too comfortable with what they're watching, there's no sense of challenge. You're just tunnel visioning reality. You don't see kind of the darker parts of what's happening, or the scarier parts, or even the funnier parts, because you're just streamlining the basic whatever stuff that's coming out. That's just going to be comfort food for you. But you also need, your vegetables. You need to see
exactly.
You need to see movies that will challenge you and make you really think about what's happening in society, what's happening in reality. What can I take away from this movie? What can I take away from this music? What can I take away from this art?
Yeah, in a perfect world, everybody would watch the Eddington and be like, well, shit, we need to do better, guys. Everyone would think
that's the point. But if you're going into Eddington and just being like, man, COVID kind of sucked.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. That's
yeah.
If you're turning a blind eye to the unpleasantries of life, then you're just kind of remaining delusional. You're just kind of remaining in the dark about things, and you're not going to know what's going on that's bad, and you're not going to challenge things, and there's not going to be change that way, you know?
And that's why, censorship is a scary thing.
A very, very scary thing. And that's why it's used as well. It's very intentional. It's doing exactly what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are also a little afraid to engage with something that's uncomfortable, unpleasant, or maybe even like, portrays things that are bold and that are like not like something that not everyone would portray in a movie, that would not make light, but like kind of almost make jokes about in a way to make a point.
Yeah.
Right?
You can't be Beau. You can't be afraid.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But that actually is something I learned from Beau. Is I was like, I think I'm too scared to like the movies that I like. Like, sometimes I'm like, I saw Beau is Afraid, loved it so much. Everyone else kind of like, mixed. It's mixed. But then I never really, even though I had like a platform at the time where I could have been talking about it, I never really talked about it because I was just like I was like, I don't want people, like, what does this say about me? Like, is this just going to be like people saying, oh, you just like the movie because you're selfish and you think it's about you? And it's like, that's the point of art, though. Like, and it's not to devalue what the movie is also saying about stuff that has nothing to do with me. But I mean, as an individual, I think it's important to tune into what the art is actually speaking to you about. Like, what actually evoked within you when you watched that movie? What was your relationship with it? That's important to share. I think that's important for everybody to share.
Yeah. And you could, by, saying what you like, what you actually feel about something, that's how you gain new followers and new friends and new people that want to
actually meaningful relationships.
Yeah, because then you'll find people that agree with you and are like, yeah, this movie is great. Thank you for saying that.
It's not even about agreeing. It's about understanding, like, I think, the function. What is the point of a film critic? Like, it's an art form. Why do we have people judging whether it's good or not? And the point of a film critic is to be a person, is to be a reference point, is to be someone that you can kind of follow along and understand how their taste differs from yours and how it's the same, so that based on what they say about a certain movie, you can kind of get an idea of if you will like it or not. That's why people say, oh, these are the only critics I trust. But usually when they say that, they mean, I trust this guy because he's always right and he always agrees with me. That's not the point.
Yeah.
That's not the point. A lot of the people that I like to watch film criticism wise disagree with me all the time, but it's because usually you can anticipate that if you have a real relationship with that critic's work.
Yeah. And you could also learn a lot from other people's perspectives on movies as well, or anything really, because you're living your own life and you have your own perspectives on things, and so you might watch a movie and take something out of it, but then someone watches the same movie and takes something completely different from it. And really, if you're really a film goer and someone who really wants to respect the medium and understand what the filmmakers are trying to do, it's kind of your responsibility to take those other perspectives into account as well, and be like, okay, maybe I didn't see this as a movie about some kind of trauma, but this person did, and they obviously recognized it way more and better than I did, and it kind of showcases that the movie or movies can be multifaceted. Like, there's so much in movies that people can take out of it as it relates to them, and sometimes some movies relate to people more so than others, and you can't devalue someone's appreciation for that movie just because they saw something that really meant something to them, even though it didn't mean something to you.
That's what I always like to say, is that when you go into a movie theater, you take your life with you. The life you've lived is with you in there. It is not separate from the movie at all. It's like you're not just a spectator. You're in that relationship with the movie, and who you are as a person and how you're designed and what the experiences you've had. It's going to drastically inform how you consume the movie and what you see in the movie and the things that you notice and tune into more than others. So yeah, even if it's something that the artist may not have even intended, like it'll just hit. It'll hit different sometimes depending on who you are, and that I think is why Ari Aster is a great filmmaker and why we wanted to talk about these movies, because when Community is not built on a singular hierarchy ideology. It is built up of individuals, and I think Ari Aster just wants us to realize that we are all individuals.
Yeah, don't be manipulated.
You're being manipulated, says in Eddington. Misspelled your, and that is just that's the microcosm of everything.
Yeah, I think we kind of came around the fact with our thesis about what Ari Aster is trying to do, and he's basically saying stop being manipulated by these things that you could branch off of and out of, because everything is trying to force you to believe in something that maybe you don't, and you shouldn't allow that to happen. You should be yourself. You should break out of that. And
it's it takes bravery. It takes balls as big as bows.
Yeah.
To do, but
I wonder if Ari Aster has really big balls, and that's why.
I don't know. I was really nice. It was really nice to see Joaquin and Eddington, back to normal size.
Yeah.
That was actually almost my Letterboxd review.
Really?
Yeah, I was gonna write, "Good to see Joaquin's balls are back to normal size." Just that's it.
But yeah, that was Ari Aster. He's one of the great filmmakers of today that I think personally. But it's really just proofs in the pudding. It's like if you could really dig into his movies and get a lot out of them, and I feel like that just showcases that he's such a well detailed director that's really showcasing a lot of themes and ideas and characters and situations that you just don't see in most movies that come out today.
And I will say, we talked about 4 movies here.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about 6 movies with Jurassic. 7 movies with Jurassic, and this episode's longer.
Yeah.
So take with that what you will.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we went through everything. There's a lot to talk. We probably could go on for another few hours.
I mean, we could have talked about this length of time on any of these movies.
Yeah.
If we were really trying to, we could have done a whole episode per movie, and that would actually be really fun. Maybe down the line we'll kind of like focus on each and every one, when some time has passed and we want to revisit the subject.
Yeah. We were thinking about ranking these movies, but we're not going to do that because they're all pretty great.
They're all very, very close. I mean, obviously for me, y'all know what my favorite one is, and my second favorite one is Hereditary, and that's all I know. I can't. The other two, it's either or. It doesn't. Really matter.
I mean, I can't really. They all function very differently, and they're all saying very different things, and they're all styled very differently.
But yet,
he has
they all have the through line.
Yeah, he still has that auteur stamp on his films. They all feel like Ari Aster films, but they aren't always. They don't all feel the same. In a certain sense. It's kind of like PTA.
Yeah.
Like every PTA movie looks and feels like a PTA movie, but they're all completely different from each other.
That's a sign of a great filmmaker, I think.
Exactly, and PTA is
Spielberg, same thing.
These are all filmmakers that, again, I feel like they were born to make films. They were born to make movies that are different and abstract and not of the same ilk of these big blockbusters of today. And
like M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, even him. But what are your guys' favorite Ari Aster films? Do you even like his movies?
Yeah, are you an Ari Aster fan or an Ari Aster hater? And what did you think of Eddington as well?
Yeah,
let us know your opinion. And also, what's a way you feel you're being manipulated?
Yeah,
even someone just types, "This fucking podcast is manipulating me." I thought I didn't like Ari Aster, and then I listened to it.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody's manipulated by something.
Everybody
is
all the time.
Yeah, even if you feel like you aren't, you probably are. You just don't. You can't take it down to any specific thing.
Yep.
But yeah, that's it.
That is it. We love these movies. We love this filmmaker. Stay tuned for next week. We post episodes every Monday. Follow us on other platforms. Link in the description to stay updated on everything we're doing. And follow us on Letterboxd and rate the podcast and review the podcast and leave us a comment, please. Send us an email if you want us to talk about a specific thing, and we will consider it. Anything else you want to say?
I don't think so.
All right. I've been Peyton.
And I've been Adryon.
And we'll see you next time on the Apple Box.